Well, hey everybody, I'm the Crockett Cooner, and this is the Crockett Coonhound Show, and you've made it to the Fireside Chats here with the old Crockett Cooner. It is January the 27th, guys, 2025, and it is freezing cold. Got my coffee out here in southern Middle Tennessee right now. It's warmed up a little though, but about this time of year, guys, I get to thinking about the spring garden. I do. What am I going to grow this year? What am I going to put out there? Now, for folks that have followed me, you know, we've talked about vertical squash. We've talked about sunflowers, tomatoes, and all kind of things. But tonight, guys, I want to stop, make you guys a little fireside chat. Because, in my opinion, in Scooter's opinion, the way it's looking, a lot of other folks maybe going to have to, you know, plant some beans, plant some tomatoes, those types of things. We need to talk about some stuff here. Now, if you are anticipating planting a garden this spring, guys, I would suggest going ahead, checking where you're going to put this garden. If you've got to do a little tilling while the ground is damp but not frozen, it's a good time just to kind of break it up, go ahead and get it ready. You know, maybe put a little fertilizer on it if you need to. I've used both kinds, guys. I've used live manure. I've also used pelletized stuff. But if you followed me here at the Crockett Coonhound for any length of time, guys, you know I love a good piece of gardening plastic. It helps you find any type of vegetable that has just fallen. It cuts down a lot on insects. It cuts down a lot of time and work in the garden, guys. But there is something I have never mentioned to you guys on film before. Guys, I had the same strain of tomato plants. I'll show you right here. And that picture, I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Scooter got that last year. Or, excuse me, a couple of years ago. About 2 or 3 now. Now, guys, you know I talk a whole lot about soil diversity. I talk a lot about having a seed bank. I've got my seed bank in there in the house. You know, collected the seeds, cleaned them and everything, dried them, all of that. But now, I've talked the positive parts of that, guys, but let's talk a little bit negative. Now, I hate to be the guy that does that, but let's talk about something. Now, when you start collecting your seeds from the vegetables you've grown, let me tell you a little risk that you run. Now, they do, for a fact, get used to the soil that you have around your area. That always helps. But as you noticed, we are having some climate change, guys. A lot more snow and ice here in the southern U.S. It's going a lot further down. A lot of colder days and things. The growing season, in my opinion, seems to be beginning a little bit later in spring, where it used to be a little bit earlier. I like to get a jump on my seedlings, but I never mentioned that to you guys. The same strain of tomato plants I'd had there for about 6 years, guys. I actually planted the whole garden, went back out there, and sure enough, it came a huge rainstorm that night. I was not here around the old homestead, and when I came back, I actually had gone to the movie theater, to tell you the truth. When I came back, guys, all of them had been beaten so bad by the huge thunderstorm that came through. It literally just broke the seedlings and things. They were no good. Some of them washed away. You couldn't even find them. It had covered them so much. I tried to give them a good week or so there, because right after it dried back up. But it killed all of them but about one plant. Now, things like that is kind of what I want to talk about right here at first, guys. Because one thing that you have to know about a lot of your vegetable plants and things and collecting seeds, one of the downfalls to it, guys, is just because you bought this hybrid type of tomato, when you start collecting the seeds and you plant it next year, it may not be the same type of tomato you planted. Now, a lot of folks get a little confused on that. because of where they have grafted things and times past. It may say that you have like a Better Boy hybrid, and then what comes back looks more like an early girl as far as tomatoes go. And it'll do that on a lot of different types of vegetables and fruits. I had some watermelons, guys. I'd saved the seeds, big Jubilee stripe watermelons. Also had some pumpkins, if you guys remember that a while back. My main man Dave, we had tried to grow us a big whopper pumpkin for the fair, and we did. We got a ribbon. But the thing with it was, guys, is the next year, what came back was not what we had planted before. They were pumpkins nonetheless. With the watermelons, I cut them open. None of them wanted to get ripe. I tried every little trick I knew to get them ripe. None of them. They would remain white all the way through the core. I had one of them that was a little bit pink. So what I'm getting at is that's one thing to keep in mind, guys, when it comes to seed collection. I'm saying you need a B plan also. It might not be what you planted the year before. If you've got a plant and you look there at one of your local nurseries, wherever you get them, look on the back of a seed pack, whatever you order, it may say that they have been grown to where they can be disease tolerant, toward rain and things, causing moisture, too much of it. And the plant that comes back may not have that. So I'm kind of hoping it's a bit of a blessing in disguise, guys, that the same strain of tomatoes I had kept for roughly 6 years did get damaged, and I moved to something else. But I've got to admit, they produced some good tomatoes that were good for canning and things. But getting on into it, a few other things that I wanted to mention there, guys. Now, as always, this time of year, for those of you that follow me, I have backyard chickens, things like that. Of course, anytime I clean their coops, I put it on my garden. But I generally stop doing that, guys. I generally stop about the beginning of March. Now, I'll tell you why. That particular, any type of a poultry type of manure that's real fresh, well, if you ever do anything with onions, it seems to make them extremely hot when you eat them. They're just very in your face, almost too strong. So I try to give it enough time that I can let all that completely break down. I turn it in the soil 2 or 3 times, really aerate it. But also, now I have got a planter. I've showed that to you guys many a times here on the show. Built it, that way you can start the seedlings. They can be outside. They can get natural light. If need be, it gets warm in the day, I can crack the top open like a little mini greenhouse there. But I've got to do a little work on that one, guys. And that's something that I wanted to talk about. For folks that are saying, you know what, it would be cheaper to buy seeds, which it generally is, and begin a garden that way instead of already buying established plants. A little trick you can do, if you can buy you some hay bales, you can set them around, make you a square, find you something like an old screen door, lay on top of them. That way the plants can get sunlight, especially in areas where you're going to get late frost and freeze or too much rain there at the beginning of the spring. That always helps a whole lot. There's all kinds of little tricks like that, guys, when you're going to grow a garden. Now, myself, I like to go ahead, look ahead a little bit. If your area is like mine, you go into some of your bigger box stores, you're already starting to see some of the spring stuff. They're getting some of it out. You've got some hummingbird feeders, those types of things. And I had written on this, I believe on Facebook the other day, we were talking about insects. Now, that is one thing, guys, that gardens have to have, especially flowers and things. You need some pollinators, but you don't need other types of insects. And I had one of my followers ask us, does this cold weather and snow and ice, kill off some of the numbers of insects, like bad insects or good? Well, that's kind of a difficult question, guys. It depends. Insects, much like birds, they can migrate to where it's warmer. Some of them go into a form of like hibernation, so it doesn't bother them at all. But yes, sometimes extreme cold snaps will in fact, take care of some bad insects. But, things like fire ants, I don't really think they're all that affected by it. I mean, just from what I have noticed in years past, there's a big push here in America for the American honeybees. Everybody's like, hey, make sure you have areas that they can pollinate and things. And luckily, around here, I do have some honeybees. I don't know if they're necessarily like a wild bee or if there's something that someone has imported and they've come here. I don't know. I've never really took that close a look at them. I've just seen them from a distance. Many times they were coming to pollinate the irises, which was good for me because I didn't have to go out there, pull out a stamen, self-pollinate anymore. I did that quite a few times, and then once I formed a seed pod there, guys, I would cut them and things, put them through the refrigerator, make iris for the next year. Even though you don't have to, I enjoy a good garden variety of iris. Now, I've mentioned some of those earlier, way years ago on the show, but because of, climate change, more rainfall, guys, I've had to move some of my beds. I had some of them here close to the house. They were getting so much rain off the roof. It was just not good. It was not good. The iris were getting where they didn't bloom and things. But they're a pretty hardy plant. If they come up and then you have a bit of a cold snap, they can make it through it. But that was kind of the point of my video tonight, guys. For folks that are saying, hey, I'm toying with the idea of a spring garden. Maybe not a huge thing. Maybe not nothing big. Maybe you're not going like Scooter and them used to and have about a 3-acre one, where you turn it with a tractor. Maybe just a few plants. There's nothing wrong, guys, with going ahead. If you're going to plant in the ground, not in boxes or something or in pots, go ahead, kind of figure out where you want everything to go. Check out the position of the sun, see where the plants are going to get the most sun, see where, if you're going to have to do a little, hand watering and irrigation and things, how, if they're close enough to you. I suggest from the old cooner here, this time of year, start kind of getting an idea in your mind on what you're going to grow this spring. But I've noticed, guys, like I said, because of the climate and the seasons, used to, I would get my garden going at the end of March, kind of midway through April, and then Buddy come right at the end of April. So we were talking April, May, June. Garden is really starting to start up, really coming in, at different times, and then on over toward June, it was just full force. But I could keep it going too, guys, run it all summer long like that. But about the only thing that seemed to really like weather like that, and it really liked it when it got good and dry, were the pepper plants. Had tons of ghost peppers, habaneros. They seem to do really well, and like bell pepper seem to do really well, but other plants such as beans, tomatoes, not so much so. So, these are things that I would suggest if you follow us here at the Crockett Coonhound Show, but you're not in southern Middle Tennessee, you're elsewhere in the world, and you're saying, hey, I'm going to grow a garden this year, eat a little healthier, save a little money, that type of thing. Definitely check in your area, check at the co-ops, agricultural centers and things. Ask other people in your area, check them here online, find out if there's like some gardening clubs and things in your area. Ask those folks generally what time they start planting. That way you don't get out there and do a whole lot of work and have something happen, because like I said, the time of the year was right, guys, but I had a strain of tomatoes I'd kept for 6 years, and they seem to still be a bit disease tolerant, but I ended up, I don't know what they got really. I think more like a blossom end rot. That's what Scooter got a picture of. I'm going to post her up there. It was getting way too much rain that year, guys, and stuff started rotting on the vine. Like I said, that was a few years ago. But, that's kind of the downfall to seed collection, not keeping something that's even fresher that's been grown in a greenhouse. So, for those of you that follow us here at the show, guys, I don't know what I'm going to do this year in the garden. I will definitely try to have a little project out there of some description, so I can show all of you at home. I'm toying with the idea of something. I've often wanted to do this. Square watermelons. I've thought about it. I saw it once on the internet, guys. I believe it was somebody in an Asian country. They were on a hillside. They were growing watermelons. The watermelons would grow up and many times start trying to roll down. It would break their vines. And I'm toying with the idea of some square ones. I don't know. I don't know what kind of container I'd put them in. I've seen a few articles and I've seen a few videos where people actually encased some of their fruit and it made like monster faces, but they did it with pumpkins and things and then used them on around Halloween. But I don't know. I'm working on it, guys. I have a love in my heart for tomatoes and bell peppers. And I mean, hey, all you need's an onion and some black-eyed peas. And we're talking some Hoppin' John for the folks down south. I like my black-eyed peas that are hot, guys. But I just want to stop tonight, make you guys a small video, kind of give you some things to think about if you're saying, hey, Cooner, I believe I'm going to do like you guys. I'm going to save $1. I'm going to, get a few plants this year, or maybe start a small garden. No time like the present to kind of get in your mind to plan, guys. Like I said many times, if you're going to grow a bigger garden, going ahead, mapping it out, doing a little research. How tall do certain plants get? Because the last thing that you want to do is plant something small like a bell pepper and then have corn or something next to it, towering over it, and it not ever get the sunlight. So, but anyways, I'm going to stop right there, guys. I say it all the time, guys. Stay safe on the water, stay safe in the woods, and definitely stay tuned here at the Crockett Coonhound Show. Myself and Scooter will have you folks another video dropping shortly. You guys have a great day.